Ladies and gentlemen, there is a secret so simple, so powerful, and so often overlooked that it separates the successful from the defeated. Losers ignore it, the masses dismiss it, but those who rise, those who build empires, shape destinies, and bend life to their will, they cling to it with unshakable faith. That secret is discipline. Discipline is not exciting. It does not shout, it does not parade, it whispers, it waits, it works quietly behind closed doors while the world sleeps. Discipline is the willingness to take action when there is no applause, no recognition, no guarantee of reward. Only the deep inner knowing that you are moving toward your vision. Most people lose not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack the will to control themselves. The undisciplined mind is a ship without a rudder, tossed by every wave, every wind, every opinion. One day it's chasing one dream, the next day it's distracted by another. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and before they know it, they have built nothing but regret. But the disciplined, they are different. They do not wait for motivation. They do not depend on luck. They decide, and once the decision is made, they act again and again, regardless of how they feel. They understand that the pain of discipline weighs ounces, but the pain of regret weighs tons. Discipline demands sacrifice, of comfort, of excuses, of distractions. It demands that you say no to what is easy and yes to what is hard. It demands that you rise when the world says sleep, that you persist when your mind screams quit. It is the fire you walk through to forge the life you want. Every great achievement, every towering success, every legacy that echoes through time was built on the foundation of daily disciplined action. Not once, not twice, but relentlessly, again and again. So I ask you, what is it that you want? Name it, picture it, hold it in your mind with burning intensity. Now understand this, you will never have it if you cannot discipline yourself to pursue it. Not once, not when it's convenient, but always. The world does not reward intention, it rewards execution. It rewards the man or woman who trains the mind, disciplines the body, masters the will. Those who fail do so not because the goal was unreachable, but because they refuse to reach for it day after day, hour after hour, step. Discipline is everything, and those who ignore it lose everything. They say knowledge is power, but that is only half the truth. Knowledge is potential power, nothing more. It is discipline that transforms it into action. It is discipline that takes an idea from your mind and breathes life into it in the real world. 1,000 brilliant minds go to waste every day, not for lack of inspiration, but for lack of consistency. The graveyard is filled with genius, men and women who could have, should have, would have, if only they had mastered themselves. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and reality. You may visualize your success all you want. You may fill notebooks with plans. You may surround yourself with vision boards and affirmations. But without discipline, it's all smoke. Discipline is what gets your feet moving when your body is tired. It is what keeps your hands working when you'd rather rest. It is what separates wishing from doing. You cannot cheat it, you cannot bypass it. There is no shortcut, no hack, no secret sauce that replaces discipline. It is the price, and you must pay it in full every single day. You must wake up and meet your obligations, not just when it's easy or when you feel inspired, but when it's cold, when you're tired, when no one is watching and no one is clapping. That is where success is born, in the quiet hours of repetition, in the trenches of persistence. Losers, on the other hand, they ignore discipline because it's inconvenient. They crave comfort. They want results without effort, praise without sacrifice. They chase the illusion of progress. They talk, they post, they daydream, but they don't do. And when reality slaps them, they look around for someone to blame, never realizing the enemy was always within. Discipline is the one thing losers try to avoid and the one thing winners refuse to live without. The disciplined man can take mediocre talent and average circumstances and still rise above those born with more advantages, simply because he shows up every single day while others sleep, scroll, and stall. And make no mistake, Discipline isn't always dramatic. It's not about some grand heroic act. More often than not, it's the smallest decision, choosing the gym instead of the couch, the book instead of the screen, the grind instead of the escape. It is how you spend your minutes that determines how you live your years. Discipline is freedom in disguise. Most think it's restriction, but in truth, it is the only true liberation. Because when you are disciplined, you are no longer at the mercy of impulse. You are no longer ruled by mood. You are no longer tossed around by the chaos of circumstance. You become the master of your fate, the captain of your soul. Those who lack discipline are slaves, slaves to laziness, slaves to fear, slaves to fleeting pleasures. And the worst part, they choose it. Every day, with every excuse, with every delay, with every promise to start tomorrow, they choose it. But those who choose discipline, they choose power, not power over others, but power over self, and that is the highest form of power there is, because when you command yourself, there is nothing you cannot command in the world around you. Your body obeys, your mind sharpens, your will hardens, you become unstoppable, not because you're perfect, but because you refuse to quit. There will be days you don't feel like it. There will be days when the world tests you, when failure tempts you, when comfort calls your name. But those are the days that define you. Discipline isn't about how you act when it's easy. It's about how you respond when everything inside you says stop, and you keep going. It is the steel in your spine. It is the fire in your gut. It is the whisper that says, I will not be denied. You see, every man must choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One is temporary, one is eternal. Discipline demands effort now, but it gives peace later. Regret demands nothing now, but it steals everything later. And it never lets go. It haunts, it echoes, it becomes the voice in your head, reminding you of what could have been. You must train yourself to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it, especially when you don't feel like doing it. That is the mark of greatness. That is what separates the few from the many. The disciplined man walks a lonely path. There are no crowds in the extra mile. There are no parades for the early mornings, no cheers for the late nights. But those miles, they count. They compound. They build character, momentum, and legacy. Discipline doesn't just change your results, it changes you. It rewires your brain. It reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who finishes what they start, someone who does not fold. And when that becomes your identity, everything changes. You move with purpose. You think with clarity. You live with certainty. And let me tell you something else. Discipline is contagious. It spreads, it influences. When you walk into a room carrying the weight of a man who commands himself, people feel it, they respect it, because it's rare, because it's real, and because it can't be faked. You can dress up laziness in fancy clothes. You can hide inconsistency behind clever words. But discipline is raw, it's honest, it leaves proof. It builds muscle, results, reputation. You can't buy it. You can't rent it. You can only earn it through relentless repetition. So if you want more wealth, more respect, more freedom, it starts with more discipline. Not later, not next week. Now, right now, because the longer you wait, the louder your excuses become. The longer you hesitate, the stronger your doubts grow. Winners make discipline a lifestyle. They don't negotiate with it. They don't make it optional. They bake it into their identity. They don't say, I will try. They say, I am. I am disciplined. I am focused. I am consistent. That's the language of the relentless. The truth is, success isn't reserved for the lucky or the chosen. It's reserved for the committed. And commitment is proven not in what you say, but in what you do. Day in, day out, without fail, without excuse. There are no accidents in greatness. No one stumbles into excellence. It is earned, minute by minute, decision by decision, sacrifice by sacrifice. And the key ingredient to every one of those moments? Discipline. Look around. Look at the greats, the icons, the legends. Do you really think they got there by accident, by chance? No. They built themselves. They forged themselves, not once, not twice, but over years of disciplined effort. You admire their results, but could you stomach their routines? Discipline is the grind no one sees. It's the reps in the dark. It's the hours behind the curtain. It's the choices made in silence, but eventually, the silence gives way to impact. The invisible becomes visible, and the world calls it greatness, never realizing it was discipline all along. So if you want to change your life, don't change your dreams, change your habits. Don't wait for inspiration. Create a system, show up every day no matter how you feel. That's the real flex. That's where power lives. That's where transformation begins. Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your discipline. Your dreams are only as real as the habits backing them. Your vision is only as strong as the daily actions supporting it. And in the end, when the lights go out and the applause fades and the noise disappears, it will just be you in the mirror. And the man staring back at you will know. He will know whether you honored your potential, whether you chose the pain of growth over the numbness of mediocrity, whether you built something worth remembering or wasted the one life you were given. The winners, they'll still be building, still showing up, still doing what needs to be done. And the losers, still searching for shortcuts, still chasing motivation, still wondering why nothing changes. The difference was never talent, it was never luck. It was and always will be discipline. Discipline is the great equalizer. It doesn't care where you come from, how you started, what your parents did, or how much money you have. It doesn't care about your past. It only cares about what you choose to do today, now, in this moment. It is the gatekeeper, and it opens its doors only to those willing to do the work, to pay the price, to sacrifice comfort for growth and ego for mastery. Losers avoid discipline because it demands accountability. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit, I am the problem and I am the solution. That level of honesty is terrifying for most. It's easier to point fingers, to blame time, money, genetics, circumstances. But deep down, everyone knows the truth. The disciplined win because they earn it. The world will offer 1,000 distractions, 1,000,000 reasons to settle, to compromise, to lower the bar. But the disciplined man sees through it all. He sees the trap of temporary pleasure. He sees the poison in procrastination. He chooses the path that leads not to what is easy, but to what is worth it. There is no greatness without suffering. And discipline is the suffering you choose, the pain you invite because you know it sharpens you. You know that every early morning rep, every skipped indulgence, every hour spent mastering your craft instead of wasting it on mindless entertainment, that's the currency of greatness. That's the price of becoming someone the world cannot ignore. The undisciplined believe that doing what they want, when they want, is freedom. But look at where it leads. Weakness, regret, dependency, a life reactive, not deliberate. There is no freedom in being ruled by your urges. There is no power in being a slave to your emotions. True freedom begins when you can tell yourself no and follow through. When you can act in alignment with your goals, not your mood. When your future matters more than your feelings. Discipline teaches you this. It teaches you that the road to everything you desire is paved with days where you want to quit and don't. It teaches you to stop negotiating with your goals. It teaches you to execute relentlessly, whether the world applauds or remains silent. The people you admire, the ones whose names echo through history, whose work changed lives, whose presence commands respect, they bled for their vision. They bled in silence. They endured the monotony of discipline. They weren't always motivated. They weren't always strong, but they were committed. They showed up even when it sucked, especially when it sucked, because they understood something the undisciplined never will. Consistency beats intensity every single time. A burst of effort means nothing if you disappear for the rest of the week. A flash of motivation won't carry you through the decades. Discipline is the only thing that sustains. It is the only thing that will carry you from who you are to who you could be. But only if you choose it, every day, every hour, especially when no one is watching. And here's the brutal truth. Most people won't choose it. Most people can't stomach it. They'll choose sleep over sacrifice, excuses over execution, comfort over change. They'll lie to themselves, tell themselves they're resting, that they deserve it, that they'll start tomorrow, and years will pass, and nothing will change. They'll watch others rise. They'll wonder what the secret is. They'll chalk it up to luck, connections, genetics, but deep down they'll know. They'll know it was discipline all along. The one thing they ignored, the one thing they laughed at, the one thing they believed they didn't need until it was too late. Discipline isn't a mood. It's a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it. You start small, waking up when the alarm goes off, keeping your promises, finishing what you start. You build it brick by brick. Eventually it becomes who you are, not something you force, but something you live. Something you are. And once that happens, the world opens up, because the disciplined man becomes unstoppable. Not because everything goes his way, but because he keeps going anyway. He adapts, he adjusts, he conquers. He makes the game bend to his will. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need motivation. You need discipline. Motivation is seasonal, discipline is eternal. Motivation listens to emotion, discipline listens to commitment. Motivation says, I feel like it. Discipline says, I said I would. That voice inside you, the one that whispers to take the day off, to start next week, to slow down, it never goes away. But discipline teaches you not to obey it. It teaches you to lead yourself. And the moment you lead yourself, you become dangerous. Because nothing, not fear, not fatigue, not failure, can break a man who refuses to break his own word. There will be setbacks. Of course there will. You will stumble, you will fall. But the disciplined don't stay down. They rise faster. They correct faster. They don't spiral into pity. They extract the lesson and move. That's the edge. That's what makes them lethal. They fall 7 times and rise 8 because they've trained for the fall. They expect resistance, and they prepare for it. Discipline is the armor. It protects you when things go wrong. It shields your mission from the chaos of the world. And the world is chaos. You must be stronger than it. You must be forged by something deeper than emotion, louder than fear, more powerful than doubt. Discipline is that forge. It sharpens your mind. It strengthens your body. It unbreaks your spirit. It tells you the truth when no one else will, that the world owes you nothing and no one is coming to save you. And that's good news, because it means you don't have to wait. You don't have to ask. You don't have to hope. You just act. You become. Everything you want is on the other side of that act, that decision, that daily grind. It's not glamorous, it's not pretty, but it's real. It's the one thing that works, the one thing that never lies. Discipline is honest. It reflects exactly what you put in and nothing more. So if you want to rise, stop fantasizing, stop overthinking, stop planning your greatness, and start building it. Lay the brick, one after another, day after day. Let others chase motivation. You chase mastery. Let others seek attention. You seek truth. And when the results come, and they will come, you won't be surprised. You'll know why. You'll know it was the early mornings, the late nights, the skipped distractions, the small decisions that seemed to mean nothing at the time, but meant everything. Because in the end, it all comes down to this. Most people are interested in success. The disciplined are committed to it. Most want the reward. The disciplined want the responsibility. Most want the finish line. The disciplined love the race. So if you're tired of being stuck, if you're sick of starting over, if you're ready to rise above the noise, the doubt, the mediocrity, it starts now. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, not when it's convenient. Now. Because this moment, the one you're in right now, is a crossroads. One path leads to comfort, excuses, a life half lived. The other, discipline, progress, a life so fierce, so focused, so undeniable that nothing can stop it. The question is, which path will you choose? That choice will not be made with grand gestures. It will not be sealed with speeches or vows. It will be made in silence, in the quiet minutes of your morning routine, in the decision to put the phone down and pick the work up, in the way you respond to adversity, boredom, and fatigue. That's where the choice is made, not once, but over and over again. Discipline is not a decision you make one time. It's a decision you make every time. And let's be honest, it won't always feel good. There will be no fireworks. No one will be there to congratulate you for skipping the party to stay on your path. No one will see the reps, the rewrites, the lonely hours. But those hours are sacred. That work, invisible as it seems, is stacking up. It's building something, not just the result you want, but the person you need to become in order to hold it. Because here's what no one tells you. Undisciplined people can't keep success. Even if they stumble into it, they lose it quickly, because success is not an event. It's not a finish line. It's a responsibility. It requires the same habits, the same mindset, the same discipline that earned it in the first place. You don't just achieve it, you must maintain it. Every single day, and only discipline has the stamina to carry that weight. The lazy believe that success is luck. The bitter say it's privilege. The envious call it unfair. But the disciplined, they don't speak, they do, they work. While others whine, they win. Not because it was handed to them, but because they kept showing up long after the others gave up. And here's another truth. Discipline is not a personality trait. It is not something you're born with or without. It is built. It is trained. It is forged in discomfort. Anyone can have it, but only a few will earn it, because it demands sacrifice. And most people are not willing to give up the cheap pleasures of now for the deep satisfaction of later. They'd rather feel good in the moment than be great in the long run. They'd rather binge distractions than build their destiny. But when the party ends, when the screen goes dark, when reality comes knocking, they feel it, that ache, that void, that knowledge that they were meant for more and settled for less. And by then, the gap has widened. The discipline kept climbing while they stood still, pretending they had time. But you do not have time. You have now, this moment, this window, and every moment you wait, the version of you that could have been slips further away. You are in a battle, not with the world, not with your competitors, with yourself, your habits, your laziness, your doubt. And the only weapon strong enough to win that war is discipline. Discipline is what allows you to live intentionally, to design your life instead of reacting to it. It's what lets you set a standard and enforce it. Most people have standards in theory, but the disciplined man lives by them in practice. He does not compromise. He does not bend to pressure. He knows that if he lowers the standard once, he will do it again. And eventually, he will become the man he swore he'd never be. You must become obsessed with the standard, obsessed with the process, obsessed with being the kind of person who executes regardless of external conditions. Your circumstances will not always be perfect. In fact, they rarely will. But discipline doesn't care about conditions. It operates anyway. There will be people who don't understand. They will call you extreme, obsess, too focused. Let them talk. While they gossip, you grind. While they sleep, you build. While they doubt, you do. Because eventually the results will speak for you. And the beauty of it all is that discipline compounds. It builds on itself. The small win of today makes the harder win of tomorrow more achievable. Momentum takes over, and suddenly what once felt impossible becomes effortless. You no longer try to be disciplined. You are disciplined. It becomes your way of life, your nature. And that's when everything changes. People will ask for your secret. They'll want to know how you became so focused, so effective, so relentless. But you'll know there was no secret. Just one decision made daily to do the work, whether you felt like it or not. To keep your word, especially to yourself. To live, not for comfort, but for consequence. You will begin to trust yourself. And that, my friend, is a kind of power most never taste. Because most lie to themselves daily. They say they'll do it tomorrow. They say they're serious. They say they're trying. But they know they're lying. And that self-betrayal infects everything. Their confidence, their energy, their future. But when you live with discipline, your word becomes law. You become dangerous because you no longer hope things will work out. You ensure they do. You force progress. You manufacture momentum. And soon, your life becomes proof of what discipline can do. And here's what's wild. Once you taste that power, you'll never go back. Once you realize that you can take your life, your body, your mind, your finances, your relationships, and shape them through consistent action, you'll never settle again. You'll never tolerate mediocrity again. You'll never again live as a spectator, watching others win, wondering why it isn't happening for you. You'll know. You'll remember who you are. You'll walk into rooms differently, speak differently, think differently, not from arrogance, but from alignment. You'll know that you can trust yourself. And that is rare. That is sacred. That is what the undisciplined never feel. They feel chaos, anxiety, regret. They pretend they're fine. They distract themselves. They numb it. But they know they're behind. That time is slipping, but they're capable, but not committed. And every night that voice comes back, the voice of their potential, haunting, echoing, asking, when? But that voice never haunts the disciplined, because the disciplined honor that voice. They listen, they act. They don't push the vision aside for cheap dopamine. They pay the price. And because of that, they collect the reward. You have the power to be one of those people, to be different, to rise above the masses. But it won't happen by accident. It will happen by discipline, through repetition, through sacrifice, through brutal honesty and relentless follow-through. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start. Today, with what you have, right where you are. And then come back tomorrow and do it again. That's how the disciplined live. That's how they build legacies. That's how they bend the world to their will, not through talent, luck, or magic, but through the quiet, relentless, uncompromising force of discipline. And once you begin to live that way, you realize something else. Discipline gives more than it takes. At first, it feels like a burden, like you're giving up fun, giving up freedom, giving up what everyone else seems to enjoy so effortlessly. But soon it reveals itself as a gift, because what you're actually giving up are the things that were holding you back. The distractions, the addictions, the lies. You're trading cheap pleasure for real purpose, temporary comfort for lasting pride. And that trade is everything. Because what you gain is clarity. You begin to see what matters. You begin to hear your own voice, unclouded by noise. You walk differently. You make decisions differently. You stop chasing everything and start building something. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone because you've already proven it to the only person who matters. Discipline makes you dangerous because it makes you stable. The world can spin, the storm can rage, but you remain grounded. You have your mission, you have your habits, you have your code. And while others panic, react, collapse, you execute. While they wonder what's next, you make what's next. People admire that, they respect it. Not because you're flashy, not because you're loud, but because you're solid. You become someone others can count on, someone who doesn't just talk about values, about work ethic, about excellence, but embodies it. Discipline carves that into your character. You begin to feel a fire most people never feel, a deep inner knowing that you are becoming something rare, something real. and the world may not understand it. They may mock it, misunderstand it, even resist it, but they'll never ignore it. Because results speak. Discipline delivers. Always. But remember this, discipline is not a straight line. You will falter, you will slip. But what separates the discipline from the rest is not that they never fall, it's that they get up faster. They do not allow a bad moment to become a bad day to become a bad week. They course correct immediately because they know that the longer you drift, the harder it becomes to return. That's why the truly disciplined are ruthless about their routines. They don't leave their habits up to chance. They structure their lives to support their standards. They build systems, guardrails. They know their weaknesses and they plan around them. Because discipline is not about being immune to temptation. It's about being prepared for it. They don't trust motivation. They don't wait to feel like it. They remove the friction. They control their environment. They prioritize results over feelings, and they do it without apology. Because they're not chasing balance. They're chasing greatness. And greatness does not exist within comfort. You will not be celebrated for choosing discipline. Not at first. There will be resistance. You will be misunderstood. People will project their own weaknesses onto you. They will say you're too intense, too obsessed, too focused. That's the voice of mediocrity trying to justify itself. Let them talk. While they watch, you work. While they stall, you sharpen. And soon the gap will grow so wide they won't even be able to recognize you anymore. And in that gap, that's where your freedom lives, because discipline leads to choices. When you take control of your body, your time, your mind, you create space to think clearly, space to move intentionally, space to build instead of react. And that space is where greatness is created. You stop needing validation, you stop needing praise, you stop needing anyone to see what you're doing. Because you know, you see it, you feel it. You don't need external reward because the internal reward is deeper. Knowing you did what needed to be done, knowing you kept your word, knowing you didn't flinch, that kind of self-respect, that's not something you buy, that's earned. That's discipline. And once you live this way, you can't go back. Not because you wouldn't be welcomed, but because you wouldn't fit. The old rooms, the old conversations, the old patterns, they don't match your energy anymore. You've changed. You've upgraded. You've evolved. And discipline was the catalyst. You'll notice the world starts to respond to you differently. Opportunities open. People listen, not because you forced it, but because you became someone worth listening to. Someone who has done the work, paid the price, built the foundation. While others faked it, you forged it. And make no mistake, discipline is a forge. It's hot, it burns, it breaks the parts of you that were never meant to last, the laziness, the insecurity, the weakness. It melts them down and reforges you into someone worthy of their potential. There is pain in the process, yes, but there is more pain in the alternative. In waking up 10 years from now in the same place with the same problems, telling yourself the same lies, that is a slow death. A quiet one. And the worst part, you'll see others who were no more talented than you, living the life you were too undisciplined to claim. That's the reality. That's the harsh truth. But there's also hope, because you can change it at any moment. Discipline doesn't care who you were. It only cares who you decide to be now. You can begin today. You can begin in the next breath, with the next choice, the next step. And you do it again tomorrow and the next day, and you don't stop. You build momentum. You begin to trust yourself again. The voice of doubt gets quieter. The voice of potential gets louder, and the world begins to shift. Not because it changed, but because you did. That's what discipline does. It doesn't just help you win, it helps you become. It transforms the way you see time, effort, energy. You start valuing the hard path because you've learned it's the only one worth walking, the only one that leads somewhere worth going. You become immune to excuses. They stop making sense to you. You hear others rationalize failure, and instead of nodding in agreement, you feel resistance. You've trained yourself to rise, not retreat. And that's the difference. That's what puts you in the arena while others stay in the stands. And when you do reach the milestones, when you break through, when the results finally become undeniable, you don't celebrate like it's the end. You celebrate like it's just another step, because you know this isn't a goal, it's a lifestyle. A discipline-driven life is not built around moments, it's built around identity. And this identity, it's forged every day you choose not to quit. Every time you choose to rise, every moment you show the world, and more importantly yourself, what you're made of. Because in the end, no one can hand you your destiny. No one can gift you your greatness. It is something you claim, something you build, and the one force, the one principle that makes that possible, that holds it all together, that lifts the average man into an extraordinary life, is discipline. Always, every time, without fail. And once you've tasted what that discipline brings, once you've stood at the edge of your own potential and seen how far you can go when you stay consistent, nothing else will ever satisfy you again. The distractions will feel hollow. The shortcuts will feel insulting. You'll look back at the old version of yourself, the one who used to chase comfort and call it living, and you'll barely recognize them, not with shame, not with guilt, but with clarity, with the understanding that you didn't know better then, but you do now. Because discipline doesn't just change your habits, it changes your identity. You stop asking, what do I feel like doing, and start asking, what needs to be done. You stop living by reaction and start living by design. You stop making decisions based on mood and start making decisions based on mission. And when you live that way, when you become that kind of person, you begin to build a momentum that cannot be stopped. The disciplined man is dangerous not because he is loud, but because he is certain. Certain in his direction, certain in his action, certain in his standard. He is unmoved by criticism, unshaken by failure. He doesn't chase approval because he already has his own. He doesn't require someone else to light a fire under him because his fire burns from within. You start realizing how rare that is, how few people actually live with intention, how few people actually choose their life instead of letting it be chosen for them. You see people with potential, real, raw talent, wasting it every day. You hear them talk about what they're going to do and what they could have done. And you feel it, how discipline was the only missing piece. Not genius, not luck, just the relentless commitment to do the hard thing on purpose every single day. And suddenly, you don't need to be the most gifted, the smartest, the most connected. You just need to be the most committed. Because consistency will take you where talent alone never could. It will take you across the finish line when others drop out. It will keep you climbing when others drop out. It will earn you respect, results, and self-mastery, all in one. Discipline gives you vision. Not the kind that comes in flashes of inspiration, but the kind that's built with every small action. You begin to see the future you're constructing, one brick at a time. Each early morning, each difficult rep, each sacrifice. It's not just about grinding for the sake of it. You're building something. You're becoming someone. And that someone, that version of you, that's the reward. That's why the process becomes addicting, not because it gets easier, but because you get stronger. The very things that once felt impossible become routine. The weights that crushed you now sharpen you. The temptations that used to derail you now bore you. You've leveled up, not by magic, not by accident, but by disciplined choice. And what's even more powerful? Discipline starts to ripple into every part of your life. It doesn't stay contained to one goal. It touches how you think, how you speak, how you treat others, how you carry yourself. It becomes your edge in business, in relationships, in leadership. Because people can feel when someone has it, when someone isn't swayed by pressure or fear, when someone doesn't flinch. That presence, that weight, is the mark of discipline. And you begin to realize just how much you used to settle, not just in action, but in thought. You used to think small, move small, let little distractions take big pieces of your life. But now you think in decades, you plan in years, you execute in hours. You waste nothing, because when you've seen what discipline can build, you become unwilling to waste even a second. The regrets others carry, you won't carry them. The what-ifs others speak of, you won't speak them, because you'll know you gave everything. You didn't wait, you didn't hope, you acted, you moved, you bled for the life you believed in. And that belief, that unshakable belief in yourself, rooted in evidence, grounded in discipline, that is something no one can take from you. But the truth is, this life, this power, this certainty, it's reserved not for the lucky, not for the chosen, but for the willing. For the few who decide that their standards will not be compromised, that their word is final, that their dreams are not negotiable. It's not for everyone. Most won't do it. Most will look for easier roads. They'll mask their excuses as logic. They'll say things like balance and rest while avoiding what must be done. They'll look for validation instead of results. But you, if you're still listening, you know better. You know the work isn't something to fear, it's something to honor. It's where you prove yourself. It's where your greatness is uncovered, not gifted. The grind is where you earn the right to be confident, not because you say you are, but because you become someone who does what they say. Every time, especially when it's hard. And over time, that discipline becomes your legacy. Not the money, not the trophies, not the applause, but the person you became. The person who did not fold, who stood tall when others ran, who kept walking when others stopped. That's who people remember. That's who they follow. That's who inspires. And if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Not because it's magic, but because deep down you already know. You know what needs to be done. You know what's been holding you back. You know what habits you need to cut, what habits you need to build. The plan isn't the problem. The time isn't the issue. Discipline is. It always has been. And the truth is, discipline isn't punishment, it's love. It's the love you give yourself when you refuse to let your future be hijacked by laziness, by fear, by doubt. It's the standard you hold, not to limit your life, but to expand it, because only the disciplined know what true freedom feels like, the freedom that comes from being in control, the freedom to wake up and know you are who you say you are. No lies, no masks, no compromises, just truth, just effort, just relentless, intentional action. That's the path. That's the price. That's the difference between the ones who almost did something great and the ones who actually do. And if you choose that path, if you commit to it over and over again, everything will change. Not overnight, but over time, with force, with clarity, with results. Because when everything else falls away, when the noise quiets, when the dust settles, one thing will remain. One thing will define your life, your legacy, your name. Discipline. So stand up, decide, draw the line. No more excuses, no more delays, no more hiding from the work. Because from this moment on, you know the truth. You've seen what separates the few from the many. And it's not talent, it's not timing, it's discipline. The quiet force that shapes men, builds empires, and turns vision into reality. Choose it, live it. Be the one who did, not the one who wished. Be the one who stayed when others quit. Be the one who became undeniable, not by chance, but by choice. The choice to be disciplined, always, no matter what.